And please do not get me wrong. I don't get excited about people building masajid anymore. I really don't get excited about that. How is it that we have not recognized the importance of youth centers at this point? How good is it? We can be building all these masajids, but soon enough, there will be nobody coming to that masjid. And subhanAllah, it does not matter how beautiful, how big the masjid is. The masjid is a facility that is only used once a week for Jum'ah and once a month a year during the month of Ramadan. Other than that, our masajid are just absolutely empty. And they're empty for many reasons. Number one, our masajid are not really reflective of the culture that our children are growing up in. And please do not misunderstand me. I think the Arab culture is great. I think the Somali culture is beautiful. I think the Asian culture is beautiful. But it would just be absolutely foolish for us to think that by implementing a culture with its cultural values, to implement it here and expect people to live by it is just not very wise. So what we want to see is, we want to see a masjid that is actually reflective of the social values, the good social values and the good cultural values of the place that we are in. Let me give you an example. North American culture is a very accepting culture. It doesn't matter who you are. People just accept you. You could be anything. You can have and you can dye your hair green and people will think you're cool. It does not matter. People just are very accepting. That is not the kind of attitude that we have at our masjid. Masajid are not a place where people can just come because of who they are. You know, one time, subhanAllah, I was at a Unitarian church. I love Unitarians. I'm at a Unitarian church, and before my speech, you know, they have somebody singing. You know, they had the choir singing. And I started paying attention to the lyrics. And the lyrics were just so beautiful, and it was a song about a caravan. Our caravan accommodates anybody. Please come to us. Come and get on board on our caravan. If you are a sinner, our caravan will still accommodate you. If you have not been good, our caravan still accommodates you. And I just loved it. And I looked at the pastor and I said, do you have this written anywhere? And he said, yeah, man, it's right here. And he gave me the book of hymns that they have. And I looked at that poem. Wallahi, it was written by Jalaluddin al-Rumi. Can you imagine this? Here you are at a Unitarian church. In their service, they are singing a song that is really reflective of the essence of our deen. And that is, look, we may not approve of what you do, but if you come to us, we will accept you. That's what we want to see in a masjid. And subhanAllah, if we close the masjid on the face of those who are not as religious, who are not as practicing, we will end up turning a lot of people away. So what we want to say that in our masjid, part of that reflection of the culture is that, look man, come as you are, we will accept you, and keep in mind that we may not approve of who you are. People come to me and say, Sheikh, I struggled to bring my daughter to the masjid. And the day that I bring my daughter to the masjid, because there is a lecture going on, my daughter doesn't really want to be here. And she was not dressed properly, and everybody at the masjid just starts staring at her, and they start giving her looks. And at the end of it, my daughter looks at me and she says, that is why I don't like to come to this place. My son came the other day to the masjid, and he was, wearing stuff, and maybe he has tattoos. And the minute he walked in, people started telling him about how haram this and how haram that, and he said, that is why my son does not come to the masjid anymore. I'm not telling you that these things are halal, but look, man, the masjid is like a hospital. Sick people come into it, including us. Now, can you imagine going to a hospital that had a big sign that says, if you're sick, do not come in? Well, I just imagine that. If you are sick, do not come in. Of all places, you know what? The masjid is the place for anybody that is not doing well. Wallahi, the masjid is really the place for them. So that's what we want to see. Part of that culture is, look, whoever you are, come and you will be accommodated. See, brothers and sisters, if we do not have this kind of a spirit in our community, I am afraid that people will end up playing with things that they shouldn't be playing with. That is important. So we want to do this. And the other thing is, with all due respect again, and this is, just part of that positive criticism where it is really for the sake of building up. Also, the type of activities that we have, they have got to be reflective not only of the culture, but also of developmentally where these children are. Most of our activities at the masajid, there is really nothing fun about it. There is really nothing fun about, coming to a masjid and listening to Fazaga. That is not fun. I'm a funny guy, don't get me wrong. But, I'll just tell you that this is really not it. People, especially teenagers, they love to be intellectually challenged. They are in that stage of just feeling very invincible, very indestructible and what have you. You've got to know where they are, and you've got to take this and nourish it and actually put it in the proper channels. Rejecting people from our masajid is not a good idea. Story, this Hindu man who came from a lower caste wanted to go into a temple that really belonged to a higher caste people. So as he was about to step inside the temple, the priest of the temple saw him, but he wanted to be polite. He did not want the man to come in, but he wanted to be gentle with him. So he went to him and he said, "Sir, where are you going?" He said, "I'm going inside the temple to worship." He said, "I have a better idea for you." He said, "Tonight, why don't you go and worship at home and see what God tells you?" So the man said, "Sounds like a good idea. I'll just do that." So the man leaves. And the priest of the temple is just feeling all happy about him being gentle and at the same time not admitting the man in because it would have been a problem. So the next day the man came at the same time. And now the priest is all baffled and said, "What happened? Did you do what I told you last night?" He said, "I did." He said, "What happened?" He said, "And the Lord spoke to me." So what did he say? He said, "The Lord told me, don't feel bad. Many times I, God, have tried to go in that temple and they would not allow me to go in." It becomes a place where you would only require, certain kind of people to come in and to walk in. And at that point, it just becomes very unacceptable. We may have a very beautiful building, the structure and the skeleton of it is very beautiful, but the spirit of it is very dead. And that is not something that we want in our masajid.